Hi, everybody, and welcome to L Said What. It's 6:16, so I figure I'm on time. Thank you to Power Music Factory, credited for the intro and the background music. Well, intro music in my case. So today, I want to discuss the Delphi murders. And I'll apologize for changing the live of the stream. I'm still trying to get down pat exactly if I want to do morning, afternoon, or evening on the weekend. But today I want to talk about the crime scene because not even the prosecution and the defense can agree on what's going on at the crime scene. And more importantly, the prosecution and the defense cannot agree on what is missing from the crime scene. So, 14-year-old and 13-year-old best friends. Liberty Libby German, the 14-year-old, and her best friend, Abigail Williams, 13. They were dropped off by a relative in Delphi, Indiana, and they were dropped off near the Monson High Bridge. And this is a historic hiking trail area. And the locals say that it's usually people out there. And so the girls were dropped off February 13th around the Monon High Bridge. I'm sorry. And it's an abandoned railroad bridge. And they were dropped off around 1 p.m. on Monday, February 13th, 2017, by a relative. And they were supposed to be picked up. Hi, Salute Reloaded. Thanks for stopping in. And they were supposed to be picked up in the same area. And of course, they never showed up. Now, I will credit the community of Delphi, a small town of about 3,000 people. This community immediately started looking for the girls, and police found their bodies the next day. And their bodies were, according to Indiana State Police Kim Riley, their bodies were about a mile east of Freedom Bridge, which is a part of Hoosier Heartland Highway. I have a map. I have a map that I saw, and I'm going to try and share share this map. I'm thinking maybe I don't have the map. Well, this is what's going on. The defense is saying that one of the girls was completely nude. The affidavit, the search warrant stated that police were looking for two clothing items, a sock and underwear. By underwear, I'm assuming panties. I'm assuming. So I don't know if you all can enlarge this map. But if you're looking at a device or you're looking at the television, you're going to see Deer Creek and a little blue dot for a map on your left. And then if you follow that creek up, you'll see more of Deer Creek. And that is where the girls' bodies were found. And I was shocked to read that the bodies were actually found on the property of a 77-year-old man, Richard Logan. And Logan has since passed away. Logan has since passed away. Thank you, Larice. So Logan has since passed away, but the bodies were on Logan's property, according to what I read in WRTV, on WRTV. And, Ronald Logan reportedly asked a relative to lie about his whereabouts on the day that the girls disappeared. And according to what I read, Logan's cell phone data puts him in the area. So back to the crime scene. So there's an unspent round that's in between the girls' bodies. And the police did take a weapon that they say matches that unspent round from Richard Allen's home. I'm going to tell you something, right? I'm not going to claim that I'm a weapons expert, but how many guns could that particular bullet be fired from? And an unspent round found between the girls' bodies suggests that the perpetrator put a bullet through the chamber. So Allen's defense in the Franks motion is saying that their client Richard Allen, one of the things that points to his guilt, they literally go step by step what Richard Allen would have had to do to commit this crime. And one of the things, what'd you say, Salute? Logan, he was drinking and he didn't want to get a probation violation. You know what? 77 years old, drinking, didn't want to get a probation violation. This is just so much more serious than a probation violation. But people do it. People do it because I think that the perpetrator is Bridge Guy. And I don't think that a 77-year-old man is Bridge Guy. So, where was I? Oh, so how many guns could this particular bullet, fit, right? And how many guns are out there like that? I don't put a lot of stock into it. I think that added with a whole bunch of other strong circumstantial evidence, yeah, it could definitely hurt. But back to this Franks hearing. So what's a Franks hearing? A Franks hearing in the state of Indiana is something that attorneys would ask for to go before the court to provide proof when the defense believes that a police officer lied in order to get a search warrant. So Baldwin and Rozzi are outright accusing detectives of lying to the court in order to get the search warrant. And if they could have convinced the court that the facts presented to a judge in order to get that search warrant were false, then everything pulled out of Allen's house, everything that came from the search warrant would be a no go. So, like I said, the defense is saying that the girls' throats were cut and that there are two missing clothing items. I mean, that one of the girls were naked. The state is saying there are two missing clothing items, a pair of underwear and a sock. And yes, 5 years later, they looked for it. The FBI stated in an affidavit that the FBI agent stated that in his experience, perpetrators of these type of crimes will want to take a souvenir, quote, or memorabilia from the crime scene. The FBI agent also stated in an affidavit that the agent believed that Abby and Libby's bodies were moved and staged to look like a ritualistic crime. Now, the search warrant, there was a search warrant filed just months after the bodies was found, March 17th, 2017. And this search warrant was for Richard Logan. And listen, if dead bodies are found on your property and it's homicide, no matter what, I don't care how strong your alibi is, your property's getting searched. Now, in this search warrant, it states that there were large amounts of blood lost by both victims at the crime scene, and that due to the large amount of blood that was lost, that was found at the crime scene, that the perpetrator would have had to have gotten blood either on his clothes or on his person or both. And the affidavit also, bases that on the nature of the victim's wounds. So there were no visible signs of a struggle in this affidavit. There was no signs of a fight. And the affidavit states that The state believes the girls were followed onto the trail. So this wouldn't just be crossing paths with the perpetrator. This would be, you know, hunted. This would be being hunted. So I really wonder what that's based on, that the girls were followed, onto the trail. So there's something that I wanted to bring up. By the way, Richard Logan was not ever, ever formally named as a suspect. And, the FBI says that they know that Logan gave false statements. And the defense's assertion that one of the girls' bodies that had no clothing, that she was naked, and that their throats were cut, that also has not been corroborated. So in 2022, investigators, what they're now calling a clerical error, they found an interview where Richard Allen talked to a conservation officer. And Allen, it said that he was on the trail that day during the time period that the girls disappeared. Allen also said he was wearing, the a blue jacket. He was wearing blue jeans. And we've already talked about the woman who saw a man who was muddy and bloody. So police in, executed a search warrant on Allen's home October 13th, 2022. He was arrested at the end of the month, October 31st, 2022. And when the police executed the search warrant, the police interviewed Allen and his wife. And defense attorneys are now complaining. They're saying that Allen and his wife were separated. Right? That's a common police tactic. What I wanted to bring up was some of the things that the defense is asserting in its Frank's motion to accompany the Frank's hearing. Is this, yeah, I just wanted to let you all know that I am reading from the Frank's motion. And if you come by this live, do me a favor and hit like. That is a copy of one of the pages of the search warrant executed on Richard Allen's house. Look at the font that's written in. It's horrible. But let's get to some of the things that the defense is asserting in the memorandum that it wrote, the 136-page Frank's hearing. And by the way, there were three people reportedly who leaked information, evidence given to the defense. And according to the defense, they were just associates, and the defense had nothing to do with it. One man committed suicide, one was prosecuted. Listen, I don't know about you all, but I really don't understand how the defense could lose copy of evidence. Okay, so part one, the crime scene, page 28, and then page 117, Liggett concealed evidence. Liggett is the detective that the defense is accused of being dishonest in order to get a search warrant for Richard Allen's home. So the defense writes that under Section 5 of its motion that, that the girls have been missing for approximately 22 hours when they've been found, and that Detective Liggett, Sheriff Liggett, I'm sorry, had made preposterous claims in order to get the search warrant. Remember, the 136-page memorandum is for the Franks hearing to get the search warrant for Richard Allen's home thrown out. You get the search warrant thrown out, everything that comes with the search warrant is thrown out. So the defense goes into it goes into arguing why The murders were committed by Odinus, and I really don't think that that was their strongest argument for this Odinus hearing. Although, when you prepare for a trial, you prepare for an appeal, and I think that the defense wants to put a lot on the record in the event of an appeal. And Dan Doolin's report, the defense says, is not trustworthy. So, the crime scene. According to the defense, the crime scene was ghoulish. That Libby was found at the base of a tree with four tree branches of various sizes intentionally placed in a very specific and arranged pattern on her naked body. So it is Libby that the defense is saying was found naked. Libby was positioned flat on her back with her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of a large tree. Her right hand was covered in blood, and her left hand was also covered in blood. Blood spots and blood drippings were seen all over Libby's body from head to toe. I don't know, if definitely the mark that they're saying found on the tree, you would think would be possibly with Libby's blood, with blood according to the defense being found on both of her hands. Blood dripping seen all over Libby's body from head to toe could mean that the perpetrator stood over Libby, holding the knife in, let's say, a downward position with blood dripping off of the knife. I do think it's odd that blood, according to the defense, was found head to toe, blood drippings. Libby's right arm was placed along the side of her body. One large tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder. This branch was so long that it extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. Two smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body. The two smaller branches that formed a V where her legs joined her body, respectfully, the defense is saying that the two smaller branches are were found near her genitalia. Just 1 second. My dog is demanding a treat. Thank you for being patient. So now that fur baby's taken care of, we were I was discussing where Libby was found at the base of a tree with four tree branches of different sizes intentionally placed according to the defense in a very specific and arranged unquote pattern on her body. And according to the defense, libby libby's was naked. So the one large tree branch had was placed on her left shoulder, and this tree branch was so long that it went over Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet. So I don't know how tall Libby German was, but she was 14. She was an eighth grader, pretty long branch. And then I talked about the two smaller branches that formed a V near her genitalia, with both sides of the V extending upward toward Libby's head and with one branch extending to the left of Libby's head and the other to the right of Libby's head. I would guess that would be the crude depiction of an antler, antler type. The fourth tree branch also connected with the other tree branches and was placed under both branches that formed the V. L- Do you all think that the arrangement of the tree branches sounds complicated? Or do you think that this could have been done quickly by somebody with a crude knowledge of Odinism? Now, listen, this gets pretty dicey. The defense, I told you, says that the girls' throats were cut. Libby's sliced neck was partially covered by the fourth branch. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripped on the leaves or the tree near Libby's head or where her neck was cut. It appeared likely, the defense says, that Libby had been killed at a nearby tree and then dragged to her final resting place, where she was positioned before the tree limbs were placed on her in a very specific pattern. Because a live person, I would agree with that, a live person, I don't think would lay still enough for that to happen. Now, the defense is claiming multiple killers. So the defense refers to murderers, plural. And the defense says that Abby was body was treated very differently from Libby's. Abby was found just a few feet away from Libby, and her body was not parallel to Libby's body, but at an angle, with Abby's legs just a few feet away from Libby's legs. But both of their heads were found a few feet further apart from each other, whatever that means. That the feet were further, that their heads were further apart than their feet, perhaps. So the defense says there are significant differences between how Libby's body was at the crime scene compared to Abby's body when the bodies were found. Abby was not at the base of a tree. Abby was fully clothed, according to the defense. And Abby was dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and Libby's jeans. No blood was on Abby's clothing. And the defense believes this means that Abby was likely murdered while naked and then dressed by the murderers after she died and after the blood had stopped spilling from the cut in her neck. Abby's hands were clean. Remember, the defense says that both of Libby's hands had blood on them. And the blood found near Abby's neck area, where these multiple killers, according to the defense, inflicted the deadly wound, the fatal wound, very little, if any, the defense says, blood was found anywhere else on Abby's body or on her clothes. The position of the spots and streaks of blood found all over Libby's body, with the lack of blood on Abby's body, her undergarments, her outward clothing is, quote, stark, according to the defense. Because remember, the defense is saying that Libby's body had blood drops from head to toe. The murderers, the defense right, appear to have gone to great length to keep Abby's body and clothing clean from blood. The defense is arguing ritualistic murders, multiple killings who committed a ritualistic murder. The defense goes on to say Abby was found on her back, like Libby. Libby was also found on her back. But Abby's elbows were bent, with her right and left arms placed on her chest. Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. So Abby's elbows were bent, with her right and left arms placed both on her chest. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think that someone who kills and it's not been some long time plan, or they immediately feel guilty, could have, I don't know, they could have done the same thing. But maybe the FBI is right, maybe it was staged, maybe the defense is right. I'm not convinced it's a cult, but maybe the defense is right and it's ritualistic. Abby's left leg was straight, her right leg was bent at the knee, and Abby's right bent leg was under her left leg. So, tree branches were also placed, according to the defense, in a very, very specific pattern on top of Abby's body. And the defense writes that at least one of the branches appears to have been cleanly cut by some instrument, like an electric saw. Now, a cleanly cut tree branch, I've said before, that is definite premeditation. And so this tree branch, the defense says, was not split or broken by hand. And the defense says that it agrees with the state that it was a preconceived plan. The defense is just saying, wrong defendant. Above Abby's head were smaller sticks that had been placed over her hair. And this crudely mimics horns or antlers. The amount of blood that would be expected at the crime scene, based on the location of the injuries on both of the girls, was not visible in the crime scene photos. So the defense says that it provided the court with crime scene and autopsy photos, 12 of them, and they marked them confidential. And that, that's to support what I just read to you. So the symbol, the defense says, the girls were posed in an unusual manner, and another unusual marking was found on a nearby tree. And a symbol that looked familiar to the letter F appeared about 4 feet approximately above the bottom of the tree. The F was red in color, and DNA testing showed, according to the defense, that the F had been painting on the tree using Libby's blood. Remember, Libby was found closer to the tree than Abby. She had blood on both of her hands. Libby is older, and she had the wherewithal to make the Snapchat video. And one of the girls could be heard saying, "Gone." And I just wonder if Libby was a little more aggressive, if she looked like she might, she was going to put up a fight. The defense writes, how could Richard Allen, right, keep both of these girls quiet? Because the defense is pushing multiple killers. Well, I think that a gun would keep both girls quiet, and an unspent shell. So whoever had that gun racked one through sent one through the chamber. So the defense is saying that additional blood spatter was found of the base of the same tree that the F had been painted. So there's blood spatter at the bottom of the tree. So, whoever killed the girls, dipped, I believe, his hand in Libby's blood. I don't know. Could have been Libby's blood. I think I just said the DNA testing showed that it was Libby's blood. So it was Libby's blood that was used to paint the letter F. Mm. The defense says that um, the crime scene was ghoulish. Under Abby's left lower back, a shoe was found, and the shoe is believed to be Libby's. And under the shoe, a cell phone was found, Libby's cell phone. So both girls are found on their backs, and under Abby's lower back is Libby's shoe. And under the shoe is Libby's cell phone. And either he didn't think to look for the cell phone, didn't know to look for the cell phone, because I can't believe that the killer would have known that Libby got a video of him, a 43-second video of him, and left that phone there. Now, the defense goes on to say that Liggett and a couple of other, investigators confirmed the the deposition in a deposition about the cell phone and the shoe, and there was a single bullet that was allegedly found between Abby and Libby, buried under leaves and dirt. So 22 hours it took to find the girls, and the single bullet is buried under leaves and dirt. It's February. So the defense says that it has no photographs of this alleged bullet after it was removed from the ground, no photo or video. And a lot of times there's video of the crime scene, especially with removal of physical evidence. And the defense is saying that as to the date of this motion, they did not have any of these, any photo or video of these items from the crime scene. Now, the defense is saying one man alone completed all these tasks in less than 1 hour and 17 minutes. Okay, so let's say 77 minutes. Do you all believe that a man with a gun can take control of two teenage girls, 13 and 14, two eighth graders, take them not far from where he encountered them, murder both girls with a knife, stage the crime scene with the sticks on the body, paint the F on the tree in Libby's blood? Do you all think this could be done in 77 minutes? Do you think one man could do that? I think that one man could do that in 77 minutes. You know, so the defense says that Sheriff Liggett, publicly claims that Richard Allen acted alone and that the murders were not the result of a coordinated abduction and ritualistic sacrifice. And the defense says that if Sheriff Liggett is going to try to convince everyone publicly that one man alone performed all the tasks, then Liggett has to convince others to ignore the voluminous and mountains of evidence that supports the coordinated effort of multiple Odinites. So, this is what the defense says, that this is interesting. The defense says that according to Sheriff Liggett, one man would have had to been solely responsible for marching Abby and Libby down a steep hill. One man would have then had to march both girls through the woods for some distance. At some point in time, this single solitary man would have had to cross a cold river whose depth was nearly 3.5 feet. And at this depth, if the water were only 2 feet higher, well, it wasn't 2 feet higher. Richard's whole body would have been completely immersed from head to toe. But the water was only at 3.5 feet. Now, the girls' bodies was found about a mile down the river, right? I don't know exactly where they encountered Bridge Guy. I don't know where they were on the bridge when they encountered Bridge Guy. But 77 minutes? Okay, wait. The defense says, you know, with the cold river water rising well above his waist, this man acting alone has to worry about himself crossing the rushing river. Is that a rushing river, Indiana people? While also trying to corral two girls, keeping them from running or screaming, knowing that houses were not far away. Sorry about that. And that this man on his own would have had to then march the girls up to the site of the murders, while all three, because of the depth of the water, were wearing undergarments, pants, shirts, jackets, socks, and shoes that were drenched with water from the river crossing. So he's saying that that his client, that Richard Allen, would have had to cross this river with Abby and Libby, right, to where they were murdered. And here they are, clothed, drenching wet, you know, uh, drenched with water. And then Allen would have had to, once at the murder scene, subdue either Abby or Libby in rope or some other restraining device in order to have the ability to kill the unsubdued victim without fear that the other child will run away or scream. The defense says they don't even know how Allen by himself would, or one person would have gotten the girls across the river without them one trying to scream and run. And at the murder scene, how does he keep one subdued while he kills the other? The defense says he would have had to have had something to tie them up with. Like I said, I think cold, wet, a gun, a knife, I think that could have subdued the girls. The defense goes on to say that because of the lack of blood on the girls' clothing, each child would have had to have been completely unclothed, disrobed, before this one man stabbed his first victim in the neck, cut his first victim in the neck. So the man acting alone either asked Libby and Abby to take their clothes off, or he assisted them in taking their clothes off. Now, the defense says that Trooper Jerry Holman of the Unified Command confirms that at one point both girls were naked and that Libby was found completely naked. And that while evidence showed that at one time Abby had her clothes off. So once the girls were without clothing in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the day, on a February day in Indiana, once this lone person subdued one of the two girls to prevent her from running away, then this lone person could finally kill the girls. So this man by himself would have had to pull out the ceremonial knife. That's what the defense calls it, the ceremonial knife, or whatever sharp instrument that was used to inflict inflict deadly injuries on the neck of the first child. It's not known who died first, Libby or Abby, while the second one watched, hoping that the second victim would not scream or be uncontrollable. I think I would have been hysterical, but what can you say? What would you have done when you were 13 years old, when you were 14 years old? The man acting alone, the defense said, would then have to go over to the second child who somehow stayed subdued and inflict the same deadly neck wounds. The autopsy notes taken by Sheriff Liggett revealed that the pathologist stated that because of the particular vein that was severed, that Abby died a slow death. I think maybe I should put a warning up in front of this video. So the defense says this story is preposterous and said that to entertain Sheriff Liggett's scenario of what happened, that would mean that Abby's life was taken first and then Libby's, so that the killer could do what he had to do while Abby was dying. Because, the defense says that according to the pathologist, Abby's death was slow. So the defense goes on to say that the man acting alone would have had to wait enough time so that the blood coming out of Abby's neck would have had to stop flowing because there was little to no blood found on Abby's clothing other than around her neck area. And 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 that this single solitary man clothed Abby, redressed Abby after the blood stopped. So the man said then he would have had to go and to inflict the fatal neck was on Libby. So the defense lays out even more going into how this alone man would have had to have selected tree branches, would have had to have moved both bodies, and in redressing the bodies, that that Abby's bra was secured onto her body. That's I mean that's the steps that he took, and then the Abby's pink shirt was still on underneath her sweatshirt. So they're going by this step by step, saying that a lone killer could not have redressed Abby to this extent, to include underclothing, to include a t-shirt under the sweatshirt. And so they go on to say then the man would have had to have positioned the bodies, and they detail step by step how the bodies would have been positioned. And I really just don't think that it would take as long as the defense is saying that it would have taken. So listen, like I said, the crime scene, I'll agree with the defense, was ghoulish. My hearts definitely go out to Abby and Libby and their families, their friends. But though I don't blame the defense for doing what it thinks that it needs to do, if it thinks that the particularized facts used to get the search warrant to Richard Allen, that those facts were false, then yeah, I think the defense should have made a motion and for a Frank's hearing to challenge it. But I really think that the defense is using every opportunity that it can to argue its case in front of Judge Fran Gull. And I get putting things on the record in the event of an appeal, but I really think that the number that the amount of paperwork, that the amount of defense motions, and I think trying to have the judge removed twice, knowing how unlikely it was, all it did was prolong their client from getting a speedy trial. Because this is not Judge Fran Gold's trial. This is not defense attorney Rozzi and Baldwin's trial. This is not their case. This is Richard Allen's case. And he's in a maximum security prison. And at one point, Baldwin and Rozzi said that Richard Allen was refusing to eat, refusing to sleep. After he confessed to his wife, they went to see him the next day and they told the press that he's showing symptoms of psychosis, schizophrenia, delusion. I think that that's convenient. So I want to thank everybody for stopping by. And I definitely had a lot more to show, but I think that I'll cut the live stream off at 45 minutes because you know, I think that the crime scene was ghoulish. Do you think that Richard Allen could have done all of that in 77 minutes? Do you think that these girls were marched through the woods across that river to where they were murdered? Because I don't know how he could have prevented being seen. So, like I said, if you enjoyed the live stream, hit the like button. Feel free to leave comments. And yeah, I'm not done with this case, and I'm definitely not done with those confessions. So, thank you all for stopping by. Been L said what? And I'll talk to you all later.